I often talk about the five levers, or in action coach, what we call the five ways, as being an extremely powerful tool for business owners and managers to be able to transform a business. And so I maybe think about a client story that is a great example of the power of the five ways. And it was a startup. It's been in business for a couple of years, and as with any new starts, things were slow, and it took a while, but for their revenue and profits to be there. But after 2 years, the business still wasn't creating enough distributable income to support the owner in their personal life. Rent, food, daycare, all that kind of good stuff, and uh, and and the owner was frustrated. Now, what we're going to cover today is how to be able to use those five ways and how she used those five ways to transform that business. Because what happens is when we're in those situations, that frustration or even the panic that sets in if things aren't happening fast enough and I'm running through my savings, is we get distracted by the newest shiny object we see out there. Right? Oh, this is going to be the solution. This is going to be a quick fix to everything. Or this will be, I'm going to go chase this one to be the next quick fix. And the reality is, there are no quick fixes. There are no magic bullets in business. It's about fundamental focus and strategy to implement for change. So, or the other thing I see is the plan is, oh, I'm going to double my marketing. I'm going to double my leads, and that's going to solve everything. And unfortunately, those plans are rarely very realistic. Because if it was easy and quick to double your marketing and your leads, you would have already done it by now. But it doesn't work that way. So what we did instead was focus on all five ways and picked our battles. And the result was small improvements in three of those five ways had a compounding effect, which created faster and sustainable change. And when that happens, you're able to achieve your goals and the needs that the business needs to provide for you, just like with this client. So for this particular client, the first step is we had to know what the numbers were. We had to know what the current reality, the current state of the five ways were, which are number of leads generated each month, your sales conversion rate, the number of repeat business that's occurring, your average dollar per sale, and the fifth one is about your managing your margins. It's expense management. So we got the baseline numbers, and looking at those numbers, we were identify which are the ones that are going to be the greatest certainty and fastest change. And for me, I look at the lowest numbers. The most depressing number on there, that's where I'm starting. Because let's say that I've got a sales conversion rate of 20%. It's so much easier to make a small change to get that to 40, 50, 60% than to have a really high conversion rate, let's say 80%, and raising it to 83%. It's much harder to squeeze out those percentage points when it's already very successful. So I start with the lowest stuff because it's easy to affect those changes. Or I should say it's much easier and much faster for sure. So look at those and start from the bottom. Pick the two or three from the bottom, whether so the bottom goes from margins, average dollar per sale, repeat business, and then conversion rate. The last one I look at typically is marketing, because that usually requires more money. And we're trying to make more money, not spend it. So I start with the things that are free, that don't cost me anything to work on. It may take my time, it may take some education, but it's not going to be increasing my marketing budget, 3 or 4% or anything like that. So start with the bottom two or three. Pick more than one. That's the most important. Get that compounding effect. The bottom two or three, and then identify some sort of plan of action to improve it. Now, there are over 450 different strategies around the five ways that are successful in businesses all over the world. Now, not all 400 or 450 are appropriate for your industry or business, but we should be able to find two or three for each of the five ways to be able to try to implement. And you just pick the first what you think is be most successful for each one. So if you're looking at, I'm going to look at my margins first. All right, you know what? First thing to do is look at your monthly credit card statement and look to see which subscriptions you're still paying for that you haven't used for a year. Cut them out. First thing. I mean, that's a really quick fix to reduce your expenses. Or if it's a vendor that you're using and you've been paying for them for 6 months and there's no ROI, well then you have to have a conversation and make a decision. Do I want to continue to make that investment or not? But everybody's going to have a different decision. If it's repeat business, how can I utilize my existing customer base to get them to buy again? Or if it's sales conversion rate, do I need to do some education and studying around sales? Do I need to shorten my sales cycle? There's a lot of different answers there. So pick those three, create a plan of action, and implement, and track your results. If you got the baseline in the beginning in step one, track your results so you can see what those small improvements. In that particular client's case, the margin management was able to cut out half of the expenses that weren't really useful at all, as well as taking the sales conversion rate in less than 3 months, reduced the expenses, took the sales conversion rate from 20% to almost 80%, and was able to refine the marketing process and get more leads. So those more leads with a higher conversion rate, much more revenue, and because the expenses were managed, a greater amount of that flew down to the bottom line as distributable income for that owner. And now that owner, the business is able to support that owner personally every month without having to go dip into the savings or into the capital that was received from the bank, whatever it was. This can be done for everybody. Everybody can do this. So I'd love for you to schedule a discovery call with me. So we can look at and know what your 5-way numbers are, identify your 3 best options, and create a simple plan for improvement. I look forward to hearing from you.